I feel like I need to talk about yesterday's Italian Formula One Grand Prix at L'autodromo di Monza, the Temple of Speed, as it's nicknamed, because it was incredibly dramatic, as I'm sure most of you probably already know why. But before I say anything else, I think, let's talk about the result, which was kind of overshadowed by the drama that unfolded within the race. And big congratulations to Daniel Ricciardo, Lando Norris and McLaren as a whole. Their first race win since 2012, when Jenson Button won the Brazilian Grand Prix at the final race of the season that year. And Daniel Ricciardo getting a race win after what's been a very difficult season for him so far, taking a while to adjust to the McLaren Formula One car and kind of being shown up by his young gun teammate Lando Norris. But it was great to see, which is a lot coming from me as a diehard member of the Tifosi, to congratulate McLaren and be so happy for McLaren with their win. But then saying that the McLaren of today is a far cry from the McLaren of old, the Ron Dennis era. Zach Brown, the papaya orange car, although they're all still working out of the same McLaren Technology Centre in Woking, and a lot of the background staff are the same. It's a very different team, but it was great to see. It's great to see someone win outside of the top two teams, as you will, and he won on merit as well. He led the race from the start. And regardless of what happened afterwards, he was leading the race the whole way through. And Daniel Ricciardo, he won the race on merit, and it was great to see him smile. He was really taken aback, and it was good to see him get what we all know he's well capable of. And long may it continue, because again, as I say, I'm obviously a diehard Ferrari fan, but they're not exactly having a great season and haven't had great seasons for a while. But McLaren have become arguably the most likeable team on the grid, with two of the most likeable drivers. Zach Brown at the head of the team is a very likeable character too, and he's done great things. So hats off to McLaren, and it was great to see a different result from the normal order. And good to see that there was a chaotic and entertaining race at Monza, because people often criticise it for being a bit processional, because it's very hard to overtake. I'll get into the whole processional racing thing in a minute again, but what I'm here to talk about is obviously the incident between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. Now, I'm not going to get into whose fault it was or taking sides, blah 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 blah, because what I'm going to get into is that there's too many. It was, Lewis could have given Max more space. Max should have backed out of it. Blah 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 blah. But the two of them came together. They crashed. Both of them were out of the race, which is crazy dramatic and quite entertaining for us as the viewers to see two championship rivals in one of the closest seasons we've had in years come together and take each other out of the race and score no points. And then subsequently after the race, Max Verstappen was given a 3-place grid penalty for the next race in Russia. Now, the way I feel about it is stewards should only get involved in these incidents if one driver goes on to continue into the race and finish and score points, especially if it looks like one driver may have caused an incident. And the person who caused it then goes on to continue into the race and the other person retires. Now again, I'm not going to get into who was right or wrong here, but the way I see it is, if an incident in a race happens like that, where there wasn't a very clear person at fault, that they should just leave it at that. It's a racing incident, which this one I really feel was a racing incident. There was no malice or intention involved in anyone taking anyone out. They both finished, they were both taken out of the race. Neither of them scored points, and I think that it should have been just left as that. They were saying at the beginning, before pre-season this year, that the stewards were going to take a step back from getting involved in incidents that happened in the race and investigating them after the race, and then there being maybe a change to the result or penalties being given out after the result of the race. Because even I don't always watch the post-race analysis, just because I've already set through over 2 hours of a race. Who has that kind of time? But I stayed watching just because I wanted to know what was going to happen with the stewards. And it was a good 2 hours after the checkered flag before we got the news that the stewards were handing down a penalty to Max, which really surprised me because I didn't think they were going to do anything about it. And for fair weather fans who maybe watched the race and then tuned out, then to find out that, look, there's more to the story still, and it's gonna continue on into the next race. I just feel it's silly. Just like let everything happen on track. Now, I'm saying obviously stewards should get involved in situations where there is a clear incident where someone does something outrageous and takes out someone else, and especially if that person then goes on to continue into the race and then benefit from the other person retiring. And of course, it was clearly their fault. So that annoys me, I think. I think they should have just left it. It happened within the race. Both parties were taken out. Just leave it at that. And there was no clear guilty party. And that's that. Just leave it as it is. Also, one of the driver steward yesterday was Vintonio Liuzzi. Now, I'm going to get a bit tinfoil hat with this one, but Vintonio Liuzzi used to be part of the Red Bull driver program. He drove for Red Bull for a while, then he got demoted to Toro Rosso when Toro Rosso was actually first brought out. They took him out of the main team, put him into the Toro Rosso. He didn't really have a particularly illustrious career. He was okay, but eventually then they dropped him out of Toro Rosso and he went on to Force India and other places like that, and he's since left Formula One. But should there be a driver steward who was, I know we need ex-Formula One drivers, you need a driver and their expertise in there, but you need someone who's got as little bias as is possible. I know it's impossible to have no bias, but someone who has as little bias as possible. And the fact that Tonio Liuzzi was dropped by Red Bull, and then as a steward, he was part of the team who then gave a penalty to a current Red Bull driver. Maybe though, look, I'm not going to lay blame at Liuzzi and say he has a personal vendetta, but in the end of the day, he was dropped by the team who he was scrutineering, and then eventually gave that team a penalty and their driver. So I just think stewards should just stay out of these racing incidents unless there's a clear reason for them to investigate. Someone did something clearly very, very wrong, and then that person went on to benefit, and the person the other person that was involved in the incident clearly lost out. It leaves a bit of a sour taste because like there's an off-track anomaly now again that could have an effect on this championship, because Max is going to start 3 places down than what he qualifies from in Russia, which you have to assume is going to put him 3 places behind Lewis Hamilton at a minimum. And there's a good chance he's going to have to take an engine penalty as well, which stems from another incident between the two, which happened in Silverstone, where, again, I'm not going to lay blame as to who happened, but he came together with Lewis Hamilton. And in that scenario, Max went out of the race and Lewis went on to continue. Okay, yes, Lewis was penalised within the race, but it was a time penalty, which he was easily able to make up. And therefore, Lewis went on, scored a bunch of points in the race, and Max came out with nothing. And also, from that incident, his engine got damaged, and that's why he's going to have to take an engine penalty at some point this season. So I just think if both parties are taken out of the race, stewards should just stay out of it unless there's a clear reason to get an investigation going and, give out a penalty to someone who's clearly been in the wrong, or if 2 parties are involved and one person benefits and one person completely loses out. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents on it. Like, I know this argument's going to go on for years. People are still talking about Senna and Prost from 89 and 90, or was it 1991? Don't quote me on that. Anyway, when they both, anyway, we won't get into those details. But people talk about these championship rival coming together for years to come, and we'll be talking about this one for years to come. I just wish it had just been left at the trackside and let's move on. But what I was going to say then, we'll leave there now with the stewards' inquiry. People who are giving out about Monza being a processional race because modern Formula One cars find it very hard to follow and overtake, and Monza is essentially just 3 large straights with a couple of chicanes and a hairpin. But the thing about good racing is it's not the amount of overtakes, it's the quality of the racing and the quality of the overtakes. And one thing about Monza yesterday is there wasn't a whole load of overtaking, but the racing was close, and it was, I think there was maybe 20 seconds separating the top 8 by the end of the race yesterday, and the top 4, 5 were separated by only, the gap between each car was only a second, 2 seconds maybe. And they were pushing each other and hustling each other, and it made it exciting and tense. It's why DRS, the drag reduction system, which if you don't know is when the wing pops open at the back when someone is within a second of the car in front, and they get less drag, which allows them to pull up closer to the car in front and essentially overtake. It's kind of synthetic overtaking, as you will. So when people do especially very easy DRS overtakes, it's like, it's too synthetic, it's too fake. It's not a high quality overtake, and it's not close racing. It's giving an advantage to someone. Yeah, so I just think while there wasn't a huge amount of overtaking at Monza yesterday, the quality of the racing was really, really good. It was close and it was tense the whole way through. Anyway, I could wax lyrical about Formula One for hours, so I'm just going to try and stop now before I get to I'm just gone over 10 minutes. It was a good race. Congratulations again to McLaren and Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris and the whole McLaren team. It was great to see them win. And I think everybody loves Daniel Ricciardo, and as I said, like, McLaren are arguably the most likable team on the grid at the moment. So it was great to see. It was a great dramatic race. It's continuing on to be a great, close, tight season, which looks like it's going to continue on to the very, very end. I will probably be back again soon talking about something, probably Formula One actually, because the Michael Schumacher documentary on Netflix is coming out on Wednesday. So I'm probably going to watch that pronto foco, and I'll probably give my 2 cents on that. But if you've made it this far of this long-winded ramble, which I felt I needed to talk about because I'm still a bit kind of taken aback about how crazy the events were at the Italian Grand Prix yesterday. But if you have got this far, thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay well. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.